Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. We're back from our Algonquin trip. It went really well. Not a spot of rain at all our whole trip. It wasn't too hot, mid 20s. So it was a great trip. No fish though. We did do quite a bit of kayaking, some fishing, some hiking. Went great. So I'll probably put up a video here shortly just to show some of the highlights. If you have any questions or comments on any of my videos or suggestions on upcoming videos, don't be shy. Drop a comment in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. What I want to do today is I've got a small Makita grinder that I bought for super cheap off Facebook Marketplace some time ago. And I was never able to use it. The cable, the power cable for it was damaged, so I didn't want to risk electrocuting myself or damaging the grinder itself. And also the arbor size on there, that little threaded section of the grinder, was too small. For some reason, Makita made these series of grinders with these really small arbors on them, and they don't fit any standard grinding wheel. So what I did is I ordered an adapter, and I'll put an affiliate link or link down in the description below if you wanted to go check that out and get one and maybe get your grinder back up and running again. So what I'll do is I'll show you the adapter that I bought and put on my grinder, and also we'll go through changing the power cable on these old Makita grinders. Okay, so we're looking at my Makita grinder that I got. It's a 9501B. I don't know if you can see that or not. Focus in. It's a small angle grinder. I find it'll be perfect for my wire wheels or my flap discs. And the issue with this grinder is that this little arbor here, it's almost a quarter inch or something like that of fitting, and it's super tiny, and it won't fit any of my my grinding wheels. If I can grab it here. So these grinding wheels have a 5/8 arbor, whereas these I think are a 3/8, and they won't fit on there. But with this nice little adapter, it wasn't very expensive. I think it was like $5 or $6 on Amazon, Canadian. And it just threads onto here, and I'll probably put some Loctite on there and just crank it right down because I'm never going to remove this again. And then your flap discs will fit right on here, nice. And it makes this grinder usable again. Now, you won't be able to use a standard grinding wheel since you don't have that that locking mechanism to lock a regular grinding wheel in, so you'll be limited to using flap discs or grinding wheels that have the threaded insert in the middle. But I mean, that's once you put a flap disc on there, if you have multiple grinders like I do, you have one grinder set up for every different purpose, and it works just great that way. Less time wasted changing grinding discs or flap discs around. The other issue I have with this grinder that I bought, like I mentioned, I got this for super cheap, but you can see here the cable on it. The cable is quite damaged everywhere. It's if you can focus in on here for me. The insulation on the cable is chewed up at a bunch of places. So I'll just go ahead and replace this cable just to make it safe. I have another cable here that has a 3-pronged end. These grinders only run on a 2-prong, so a hot and a neutral. They don't have a ground on them, but all I gotta do is just cut off this ground wire, just use the hot, the neutral, and I'll be back up and running in no time. So what I'll do is I'll go through some tools here. Phillips screwdriver is all you need. I've got a bit on my drill here, my DeWalt drill, and I've got crimpers for the wire crimps, wire strippers, and another fancy set of wire strippers here to strip the ends of the wires. So I won't waste too much time showing that. Also, a nice little kit here, because you're going to need to crimp on some eyelets on the end of your wires inside the grinder. So it shouldn't be too long to replace this cable. So we'll get right into it. I've got a couple screws here to remove. Right there and there. So I'll remove those and I'll be right back. So once those screws are removed, you just pull off this cap here. You pull off the cap. If you look inside, there's a metal retainer to hold this this cable saver, this flex end here out of the back end of it. Also, if you look on the side where the switch is, there's a little mechanism here that actuates this switch. So this has to be lifted, so put it to the off position, and then you could lift this up and this switch will pull right out. So now we have the switch with the 2 wires here that we need to replace, and then remove this retaining clip at the back here. That way we can replace this whole cable. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Also, one important thing is remember which side's your positive and which side is your negative, or your hot and neutral. It always helps to take a quick picture of it, so we know that the left is black and the white is right. So now we have the wires off. We'll pull off this retaining ring. There we go. So one thing I like to do, which saves me some headache later on when I start chasing these screws all over the floor, is go ahead and put these screws back into the spots where they belong. That way, if you have a lot of screws taken off of different size threads, different length screws, you don't get them mixed up and put a long screw where a short one goes, or a short one where a long one goes, and get a big headache that way. So if you push up through here, you can get this ring off. And then what I'll do for this cable is I'll grab my cutters and I'll just cut that off of there. Just cut this wire off. There we go. Pull this out. Just yank that out of there. It can be a little bit difficult to get all the shielding and everything out, but it'll all come out of there. So it should be almost out. We should be able to see through there. What I'll do is I can take my screwdriver and push it through and just make sure everything's out of there. You want this nice and clean, so when you put your other wire in, you're not messing around with the old insulation and stuff. The old wire, you want to try to get everything out of there. We can kind of force it through. Then you can grab some needle nose pliers. Got some small needle nose here. I'll reach in there and I'll yank out the rest of that insulation. Make sure that's nice and clean before we start working with the new wire. And now you can see right through there, nice and easy. Okay, so I'll clean this up a bit. One thing we want to do before we throw these guys out is you want to look and make sure that you have the proper replacement part, these crimp-on eyes. So I'll grab my kit and we'll grab the right size eyes. So if we look at these size, they're a blue connector, and of course, am I going to have any? Oh yes, here we go. Make sure it's the right color as well, because the color goes along with the size of the wiring that you're crimping. So you don't want to go too big or too small, because it's not going to be able to handle the current going through there, and it's not going to fit properly on the screw or connection that you're putting it onto. So these ones we no longer need. So this is my new wire that I'm going to put on there. The gauge of the wire is the same. One thing that I want to do so I don't get mixed up, first thing to do is cut off this ground, because we have no use for it. There's no ground on a grinder. Okay, so the fun part is feeding this through. So put that up through there. Pull the wires through, and there we go. We don't need to have, you know, 10 feet of this wire sticking out. You just want to make sure that the wire coming out the back here isn't sticking out. You don't want bare wire here. You want your insulation to go through at least about halfway up. That'll give it a bit of that protection from when the wire's flexing everywhere. So once that's done, what we'll do is we'll crimp these little ends on. Yeah, whenever I see tools and stuff on Facebook Marketplace at a good deal, I mean, a lot of times people throw out these grinders or saws or whatever. I've got a couple of weed whackers out back that I fixed up, and people throw it out just because the gas is dirty. That makes as much sense as changing your car because your ashtray is full. I mean, the tool is still good. It just needs a bit of maintenance. That's one thing that lacks. What people lack is the ability to do some maintenance. Okay, so before we put the screws on here, I almost messed up there. We need to put this cap back on. So what we'll do, and I actually messed up that one. So what I'll do is cut this end off. I should have put that cap on there before I crimped those eyes on. Go figure, eh? Murphy's Law. All right, so feed that wire through here. Make sure that that tail goes all the way in. Then we take this retaining ring, put it down inside. And then I'll put these screws down in there. Now I'm pretty confident that I have the right length of wire here. I might again end up making a mistake and have to cut these wires off. There. There we go. So that that tail is fastened back in there. The wire's nice and clean. It's not damaged or anything like the other one was. So we'll just take this wire here, the old one, and just get rid of that. All right, so now to put this on, remember there's a way that this went on, and we looked at it, and black was on the left, and white was on the right. So we'll put that black one on first. I'll go through and snug these up after. Right here. White on the right. Perfect. Alright, now you can see when this was in there before, I don't know if you'll be able to see or not, I'll try to focus in. One of these wires was already pinched just from the way that it was routed in there. So you got to be conscious of the wires and stuff, how they're in there. You don't need to start pinching your wires and stuff. You're just looking for problems if you start doing that. So what we'll do is we'll feed this back through. Now these wires here, there's a slot right there, and there's a slot on the back of this this switch here. So those, make sure I'm in frame here. There's a slot on the back of the switch here, so that has to slide in like this. You want your wires to be in the way here. Give me a bit of a pain in the butt, this thing. See if I can, there, twist that over. Like I said, make sure the wires aren't in the way. This this switch, the lever here for the button for the switch, make sure the switch is off. It'll be as far back as it can go. Then you can just lift it and flick it on top of the button. And then the button needs to slide all the way down, or else you won't be able to close up the back. So with the button all the way down, this here should slide over. Should. Like this. It's a bit of a little bit tricky to get in there. Okay, well that was much more of a pain in the butt than it should be. I had to move the wires around a little bit and place them. Actually, I'll take this apart and I'll show you guys, just because I don't want to leave just a simple part out like this and do everything else that's complicated. So if you can see inside, that's roughly how the wires are routed through. And this here slips on, or should slip on. There you go. Earlier I had some wires kind of routed in a way where they were just jamming up against the top of the cover. Make sure I'm in frame here. So, there, make it much easier. Yeah, the wire's jamming up against the top of the cover, so there's no way that it was going to close. There we go, that's better. Alright, so I cut the end off of the wire, the one with the 3 prongs. I had to cut it off earlier because, stupid me, I didn't pass the wire through the strain relief like I should have done. So I'm going to reattach this. So this is super simple. Green Robertson is all you need. White goes on the silver screw, black goes on the brass one, and then the ground goes in the center. Well, that's not very good. Kind of plug in as this. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix that for sure, or replace the whole plug-in. This should never come out this easy. I wouldn't recommend using this plug-in, but just for this video, I'm going to use it, but I will definitely replace it, as that's not really safe. This is super easy. Pass it through, measure the length about that you need, and then we'll just do this, cut it off. Cut it off. This is when these tools come in super handy. Just like that. And like that. And like that. I love those strippers. Alright, so we want white on the silver screw, black on the brass one, and green on the ground. I need to strip them just a little bit more. Sorry for you guys who have done this many a time. It's quite repetitive. Okay, so when we put these on, I like to give them a bit of a twist in the direction that they're naturally twisting. Help keep the fibers together. So then what I'm going to do, ground first. Doesn't matter which one you do, really. Make sure it just goes all the way around. If you have any tips or tricks on how to do this faster, easier, better, drop a comment below. I'll read all the comments and I'll respond to all of them. I have just as much to learn as anybody else. Let's see. That's around. Tighten that down. No need to over tighten these things. What all you'll end up doing is putting a kink in the wire, or squeezing it to the point where the wire will break easily. Especially once it starts to get some current flowing through there, it'll warm up and it'll just fall apart. Squeeze that one down. Last but not least, black on the brass screw. And this is the same thing with like household electrical wiring and stuff. You've got a silver side and a brass side. The brass is where you put your black wire, your hot wire. Your neutral, which is the white, will go on the silver screw. But I mean, you should hire an electrician if you're going to be doing anything that you're not sure of, because it's real easy to make a simple mistake, and next thing you know, your house is burning down. So make sure you consult an electrician before doing any work like this if you're not sure, if you're not experienced in what you're doing. So I'll put this plug back in, and these plug-ins, they have a notch right there that fits into a groove right there. And we're almost done. Here's a mistake that I made. This insulation should go all the way in the end. So I will go back and redo this. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to screw this back in. It's not a short term, it's not a big risk. I'm not going to zap myself or anything with it. But long term, you want to make sure that you have that properly seated. You want the insulation to be all the way into the outlet. So I'm going to screw this back together, and I'll be right back. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to replace this plug-in here for a better one. This is just temporary for the sake of the video. It's a plug-in that I had around. So we're going to plug in this this grinder, and we'll give her a whirl. So now we have the new cord on there, nice and safe all the way in. There we go. Now I've got a nice little grinder here that I could use my flap disc. I've got my little adapter here on the end, which I'm going to lock tight in place and tighten up. And yeah, it's easy as that. Like I said before, people throw out tools all the time. And I mean, a lot of times these tools are still good. They just they need a wire replaced, they need the carburetor cleaned, sometimes I've just put fresh gas in a lawnmower and away it goes. So I mean, if you have tools that need to be fixed, take the time to fix them. Instead of just running out buying a new one, you'll save money and you'll learn something in the process. So if you like this video and you've learned something from it, you've enjoyed it, drop a like, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And if you have any comments, tips, tricks, anything else that I could learn from, please do so in the comments below, or anybody else that's here watching, they'll read the comments and learn as well. So thanks again for stopping by, for watching the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.